Thanks for checking into the State of Basketball podcast, episode 7. I'm Adam Miller, and I'm here with Jaron Will each and every week. We're going to be bringing you the news and notes on all 11 Division I basketball schools in the state of Indiana because in 49 states,
it's just basketball.
We had a something new for us happen this week. We went on a visit. We went on a college visit this week.
We went on a college visit.
We big shout out to Coach Coffman at Purdue Fort Wayne. He was kind enough to let us hooligans come out and see the team, and
yeah,
got to watch practice for a little bit. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever watched a college basketball practice. You know, when I was at Ball State, they always practiced, and at the time they didn't have a practice facility. Mm-hmm. It was built, I think, shortly after I graduated, but they always practiced at Worthen Arena. And what they would do is they had curtains that curtained off the concourse entrances.
Right.
So that if you really wanted to peek through the curtains, you could, but you were still, several hundred feet away.
Yeah.
We sat in chairs on the court under the rim as they were practicing.
Yeah. It was really cool just to see, how practice is done and see, people working and, their skill positions and everything. I got to talk to a couple of coaches. We talked to assistant coach Mike Wolf for a little while.
Yep.
Assistant coach Pat Lepper showed us around, took us around to see, the facilities, which is really nice. Talked to us about their trip out to San Francisco, their trip out to Arizona. It was really, really awesome. Just see how welcoming they were.
Yeah. No, it was. I was shocked that in the middle of practice, the coaches just, popped over to chop it up with us for a few minutes. That I wasn't expecting. I kind of expected to just sit there on the sideline and just watch. But obviously, when there's 5 or 6 coaches and there's not a need necessarily in that actual moment for all 5 coaches to be involved in the conversation on the court, they popped over and they just, said what's up, asked us about the podcast, and just talked to us about ball.
Yeah, we got to meet their strength and conditioning coach, Pat Rawl. He was super nice, was showing us about, how they can monitor each other's lifts and kind of get the maximum out of each individual,
each lift.
Day.
Yeah,
so it was super, super cool.
It was really cool because they are a smaller program just because the school is a smaller school, and seeing the technology that they're able to leverage for their lifts specifically. I think I didn't expect, but I think it's really cool to see that smaller schools, smaller programs like that are taking that step, because it's only going to help their program. It's only going to help the players individually. That was just great to see.
Yeah. Coach Coffman, again, super nice guy, coach at Purdue Fort Wayne. They're off to a great start this season, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Coach Coffman was nice enough to hook us up.
Oh yeah. So as you can see, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see we're in a new space, right? We're in a new studio space. We have this plain white wall behind us, and
looks like it needs filled.
It needs filled for sure. And Coach Coffman has helped us take that next step to get the wall, to start filling the wall with.
Where do we put that
with
stuff?
Things right under you.
Awesome. So let's kind of do we'll do a quick one because this is not going to be great content for the audio listeners.
Yeah, if you're listening via audio, sorry. We'll do our best to describe the items that we're showing.
Yeah, we'll go quick. We'll just kind of show it and find it on a short or Instagram reel or something.
Yep.
So first up we have a Purdue Fort Wayne. This is their basketballs for their camp that Coach Coffman runs. So it has the logo, really nice. Got a little mini banner we'll hang up. The 2021-2022 Horizon League regular season champions.
We have 2 little koozies.
Yeah.
From commemorating both of their wins against Indiana in 2016 and 2017, shaped like a jersey.
A very nice Ride the Wave Mastodon hat. Very awesome.
I'm going to wear this hat
Nice.
What we're wearing today.
We have a jersey from their win over Indiana, number 1. I think this is a Bryson Scott.
Yep.
Right?
So it's Bryson Scott's number. Bryson Scott is a player. He's from Fort Wayne. Played for the hometown. It's actually the front of it says Fort Wayne. Throwback to there was a couple seasons there where they were Fort Wayne, Fort Wayne University, the Fort Wayne Mastodons. Yeah.
Yeah, so it has the date, November 22nd, 2016, Purdue Fort Wayne 71, Indiana 68, Memorial Coliseum patch. So that's the highest attending game they've ever had in the Coliseum. Here's another nice one. 5. Anchar. Look at that.
All black with the Mastodons in gold.
Got home and home and away jerseys. That's nice.
Yep. So we're excited. We're appreciative of Coach Coffman. If you know someone in the program who would send us stuff, you have seen, Coach Coffman brought it. He's representing Fort Wayne real nice. So we would love anything to display for. Our goal is to have all 11 schools displayed behind us in some way, shape, or form. Yep. All right. Well, now that we've kind of talked about that little campus visit we went on, we'll get into the power rankings. So this week, based on we were in week 6 of the season, right?
Yes. This is week 6.
So based on the performance, there weren't a lot of games. It was a down week because winter break is finals is either last week or this coming week. It's the last few games of everyone's non-conference play. But going through the power rankings 1 through 11, to no surprise, Purdue is number 1. Indiana State stayed at number 2. Butler stayed at number 3. We did have a jump from 5 to 4 with Indiana at 4.
With a loss even.
Yeah, with a loss even. So PFW did bounce back down to 5, where they were 2 weeks ago. Evansville stayed at 6. Ball State made a jump up to 7. Notre Dame kind of flip-flopped with Ball State. Notre Dame is now at the 8th spot. Then rounding out the bottom is Valparaiso at number 9, Southern Indiana at 10, and IUPUI at 11.
Yeah, Southern Indiana stayed the same. They did not play this week. So if you're a Southern Indiana fan tuning in, hopefully you're here for the other 10 schools because your team had a bye week, basically.
Yeah. So that was interesting. It's not often I don't think we have very many weeks where
a team
doesn't play. Yeah. I think most weeks all 11 have at least one game.
Yeah, everyone played one game except Southern Indiana played 0 and IUPUI played 2. That's it. I'm pretty sure everyone else
IUPUI is just picking up where they're picking up that extra game for Southern Indiana out of solidarity for the bottom 2 in our power rankings.
Let's talk about this first team, Jaron. They played in an in-state matchup this week down in Indianapolis, the Indy Classic. It's on Peacock, so if you didn't have Peacock, sorry, but it was a great event for both games. Were great.
Yeah.
And so Ball State went 0-1 this week. They're 8-3 overall. They lost to Indiana State 83-72. They jumped up in KenPom actually 3 spots because they played Indiana State closer than they were supposed to. So based on projections, they were supposed to get beat by more. But Indiana State kind of looked like they were going to kind of roll over. Or not Indiana State, but Ball State looked like they were going to roll over for Indiana State.
A couple times, really.
That and like the second half of the second half of the second half.
Yeah.
The
final 10.
The fourth quarter.
Right.
They really brought it, and they just played hard. They brought it close, but just couldn't get it done. I mean, Indiana State's
they're good.
They're an offensive juggernaut.
Yeah. If you can't lock down, well, I want to say if you can't lock down their guards, but really top to bottom, their offense is just good.
Any person on the team is going to shoot a 3 in your face.
Yep.
Anyone's going to drive to the lane. I mean, they're just going to kill you everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't take any, like if you take one thing away from their game, they'll just beat you somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
But really great job for Jalen Anderson. He had 18, 6 assists, and 8 rebounds. We're getting close to some like triple-double flirting with.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are definitely getting close. I think at least once a week there's someone who is right there.
Yeah. Mason Jones and Davion Bailey had 12, and they were actually 11 of 24 from three, which is pretty good for Ball State.
Yeah. I mean, what is that? That's 40, just over 45%. Which, if you're anywhere, especially from 3-point range, anywhere over 37%,
that's really good.
That's really good. It's really good. Actually, I want to talk about Davion Bailey for a second. It was his first game back in I think about 2 weeks. Played in the Arkansas Pine Bluff game, was injured, and this was his first game back from that injury. What's interesting to me is he started the first 6 games of the season. He's now, I know we've talked about over the last few weeks, they've made some starting rotation changes.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see if, does he, because of his performance, does he stay on the bench? Which it ironic to say because he played well.
Right.
But, they have been looking for a spark off their bench all season. And, did he come off the bench because he was injured previously? I imagine that's a lot to do with it. It's, most coaches aren't going to put a guy back in their first game when they're coming back from injury. But, maybe he's a guy that just stays in that spot just because he's a guy that can perform well.
Yeah.
Especially if he's showing that performance off the bench where he's, has some limited minutes against a really good program.
Yeah, so it's nice to just have another piece back for them to get someone else who can score.
Especially going into conference play.
Yeah. One person who had a monster week last week was Bashir Jihad, but struggled this week. He was 3 for 10. I think that's just playing Avila.
Yeah.
He's just a tough guy. He was 3 for 10. Avila was only 4 for 6. He did not take many shots. He was getting what he needed to, got his 14 points in.
Yeah.
But
I do want to give a shout out to Jihad and Mickey Pearson as well. They both in that game surpassed the 500 point career mark, 500 career point mark. So they're both at the half century when it comes to, or no, half century would be 50.
Millennia.
Half millennia, yeah. Anytime you're hitting 500 or more career points, that's a pretty big deal. So shout out to them.
Yeah, I mean, and just like props to Ball State because we saw them in a couple of road games this year just get absolutely destroyed. And they got down and they were never able to recover. They were down 61-38 at the 13-20 mark in the second half. Down huge. I mean, 23 points, and they ended up coming back and they cut the lead to 4. They cut the deficit to 4 with 1:35 left.
Yeah.
They couldn't get it any much closer than that because Swope answered with the 3, but that is like not a moral victory for this team because I think you would have loved to have made the comeback complete, but that's really huge seeing how this team has handled road games.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a neutral semi-home for both, but like that is a big improvement for the team, and I like that a lot.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm with you there.
Butler is our next team that we're going to talk about. Went 1-0.
Yep, they did play a Division II opponent.
Yeah, Saginaw Valley State in Michigan.
But they won pretty commandedly. It was 26-point win, 96-70.
So that brings them to 9-2 overall, and they jumped up to 58th from 63rd in KenPom. So they're
still a quality win according to the statisticians
because they just played really well.
Yeah. Yep.
Freshman Finley Bijak popped for 17 and 4 assists. The reason why he had the opportunity is they're playing a D2 team. Their starters didn't play more than 20 minutes, basically. So they just got to let other people get a run.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to get that team some more experience, especially in December. You don't expect those opportunities to come about because you're going to be gearing up for conference play.
And it's actually important to note that this was their last non-conference game. So
the Big East starts.
The Big East starts this week on Tuesday, I believe, is Butler's first, not first conference game, but is, the first game they play where it's just conference play the rest of the season.
Yeah, so that'll be tough. You have to get this one in because the Big East is so grueling. But they were 46 from the field, and they were 11 of 12 from the line. So that's really nice to see. 15 threes, but do you expect that?
Yeah.
Do you expect that against a team like Saginaw Valley State? You should win by at least 25, 30, if not more. Especially in December, you're teams like rolling, like Butler has been. They've been really good lately, and so was not surprised when they won this game by that much.
Yeah, actually, I have a little free throw for you. Okay. So background, Butler scored at least 80 points in 8 of its 11 games thus far, to this point in the season. How many games did they score at least 80 points last season?
I'm going to say also 8.
6. So they're already scoring more this season than last season, and there's still a lot of ball to be played.
Otto's getting what he wants out of these guys.
Yeah.
You can see that last year is clearly a rebuilding year, and this year he's getting a lot closer to what he wants.
Yeah, absolutely.
A team that took a huge jump in the KenPom rankings, not in our power rankings, unfortunately, is Evansville. They went 1-0. They beat Bellarmine 71-60, and they were not supposed to win by that much.
No, they were playing in Louisville, so they played at Bellarmine.
Was it Freedom Hall?
Freedom Hall.
Yeah, where Kentucky used to play, or not Kentucky, Louisville used to play.
Louisville used to play. Yep, exactly. So a little bit of context. I don't know what this means in the grand scheme of things, but Ball State beat Bellarmine by 9 in Muncie.
Okay.
Evansville beat Ball State in Evansville. Evansville then beat Bellarmine at Bellarmine. Is there anything we can take away from this in terms of how Ball State compares to Evansville? Like, if Evansville played in Muncie, do you think it would make any impact, or do you think Evansville would still run away with it like they did in Evansville?
Well, based on the way that the Cards play in Worthen, I think that the Cards win.
Yeah.
Next year, throw these two teams in the Indy Classic as well. Have it be a triple header. Then I think you got to.
Who says no?
I mean, I think that would be really nice,
especially if they're just playing at a purely neutral site.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that
it's very non-circumstantial. I think
you could play it 10 times and it turn out 5-5 or something.
Yeah. I was just genuinely curious. I was just thinking about we've talked about it a lot, how teams when they play. Right. When two teams play the same opponent, the transitive property of how that maps out. But no, I was just curious. I was just thinking about that.
But what I do know is I like these orange jerseys that they have. They were rocking some orange jerseys and they look so nice.
Oh yeah.
Like, I love the purple, don't get me wrong, but the orange, really, really nice too.
And it's when you think about orange and purple in general combined with each other, like it could be hit or miss.
Yeah.
The tones of purple, the tones of orange that Evansville has is just
the nice purple trim, like the nice trim on there.
Yeah,
it just looks so good.
It's a great color combination for sure.
Yeah. Antonio Thomas had 9 and 5 assists and 8 boards, and Chuck Bailey the third. You talked about him in our preview. He had 12 and he hit 3 threes, and he's looking like the freshman season is going to turn out pretty well for him. He looks like he's going to get some good run, and he's going to add a lot to this team. Especially when you see, how teams have been able to shut down Humrick House like BYU.
Yep.
You got to have someone who's ready to step up.
Yeah. Who can take those shots when your leading scorers are being locked down for sure.
And that gives if you get him to stay at Evansville for next year, that's going to be so nice to have him ready to go and maybe start.
Have a year under his belt, have that experience, have that confidence that he's getting this year. Definitely, absolutely.
Yep. But I mean, they were even down, like they were down 13 points at one point in the first half, and they came back and they won it by 11.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah,
huge for this team, especially at a true road environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there. Well, they took a jump in our power rankings after taking a loss. We did mention that, so let's talk about the Hoosiers.
Before we talk about them, I have a free throw for you.
Okay.
I have a quote. So this is for you and everyone at home listening. Who said, "Whoa, I could probably save a baby out here in Bloomington and they'd still boo me"?
Well, I feel like probably Hunter Dickinson.
It has to be.
My first thought was, okay, well, who from Kansas? I was like, Bill Self, I think would also kind of be the same. But knowing how many times Hunter Dickinson has played in Bloomington, and the kind of the, I don't want to say hatred, but the heckling he constantly gets from Hoosier fans.
Well, he just tries to be a villain,
sense.
you know.
Yeah,
he talked bad about IU or Bloomington specifically in a podcast.
That's true.
IU fans are crazy.
Also, very true.
They're gonna hate you.
Yeah.
If you talk about the
you could say one bad thing, and it's just GG's. The rest of your anything that you say afterwards, they're gonna hate it.
Yeah. So they did lose, unfortunately, to Kansas, who's number 2 in the country at the time of the game.
At the time of the game, they were number 2.
They lost 75-71, and it just, you cannot be in a close game with Bill Self. If you're in a close game with Bill Self, he's going to win.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
He'll beat you with his team. He'll beat you with your team. If you're in a close game, coming down to the wire, Bill Self is good for 8 to 10 points, just being the coach.
Yep.
Woodson has all the NBA experience, but Bill Self is he's just next level.
Yeah.
I mean, he's arguably the best coach in college basketball right now.
I'd argue it.
And there just wasn't enough from non-Trey Galloway teammates to get over the hump in the last couple minutes. Yeah. They led. They were up by like 13 at one point.
Yeah. Late, not like super late in the second half, but
and then by like the 5 minute with like 4.5 minutes left, Kansas took their first lead, and then you could just feel it slipping away.
Yeah.
I mean, there was not enough from Ware. He was 3 of 12. Malik struggled too. He was 5 of 13. Unfortunately, it just wasn't like they didn't play well enough to win. Trey Galloway did everything he could.
Yeah, I mean, he had a career high 28 points on 12 for 17 shooting. We talked about him the last few weeks of how his performance has not been great. That 28 points is pretty close to the combined number of points he's scored over the last 3 games.
Yeah.
So
he's been in a slump, and I mean,
he definitely showed up.
What a way to come out of it, you know?
Yeah, but even the thing that I like about that too is Galloway himself acknowledged that there were things that he could improve on. He was like, yeah, I played well. I scored a lot of points, but there's still things that I can work on. And, Mike Woodson even said, like, watching that game, it's like, okay, is Mike Woodson going to tell Trey to just, like, step up, be more aggressive? Based on the way Trey was playing, he was super aggressive from the beginning. And Woodson even said he didn't tell him that. He encouraged Trey to play hard and do the things that he's capable of doing. He just, finally displayed that.
Yeah. For context, Xavier Johnson is still out for Indiana, so you lose at home by 4 without your 6th-year starting point guard.
Yep.
So you play this game in 2 months when he's healthy. I think you win it. You play it on a neutral site. I think it's a close game.
Yeah.
I think you're seeing pieces come together for Indiana that are going to all say it all the time, but they're going to click.
Yeah,
and February, March. They just they really. This was not like the point in the season where like you need this win or your season's over, but like they needed this win from a resume standpoint. This would have been their first really good win,
especially after taking losses. No bad losses.
I mean, like huge losses, but no bad resume. Like losing to Auburn and UConn and Kansas don't look bad,
right?
But you needed a big resume win. Now they have to get it done in the Big Ten. I mean, now you're looking at a team that didn't get any really big wins in the non-conference, so they have to probably win 12 games in the conference to make the tournament. And that's all. If they can get to the tournament, again and again, if they can get to the tournament, they're going to be fine. They just have to get there. So Xavier Johnson, hopefully he's back for conference play in January. I thought we might see him back for this game, but he's clearly not healthy enough, and that really, really hurts their team.
Yeah. No, I'm
losing by 4 without him is not that bad.
No.
If you're an Indiana fan, you saw some things that were really good. You need to get more out of Ware. He's still young. Malik's still young, but your senior stepped up and got what you could out of everyone,
Yeah.
Except for the bench.
bench
struggled.
did not
3
do
bench
great.
points. Kansas only had 6, but they are, have a tight bench anyway.
Yeah, they even said it during the game. Self does not use more than 2 bench players on the court at any given time, and their bench rotations might be 4 compared to IU's, which I think they usually have really Kansas's bench rotations probably. And in totality, they probably use a 7 or 8 player rotation, and Indiana is usually about 10.
Yeah.
So
and, we didn't even see Peyton Sparks didn't even check into this game, which isn't too surprising. But
yeah,
when Ware grabbed 15 boards, he had 11. He didn't play terrible. You needed him to make more than 3 of his 12 shots. Is the thing. To win that game, especially like we said for Bill Self. But they did, for the first time this season, shoot more threes than their opponent. They shot 18 and they made 6 of them. So they hit twice as many threes as they normally do in a game, and they shot probably more than twice as many as they had been shooting.
When the crazy thing about that is, about halfway through the first half, Malik Renew had 2 of their 3 made threes.
And Ware, I think, had 1, right? Maybe he didn't have 1.
I think Mac had the 3rd at that point.
And Galloway finally hit a couple.
Yep.
He maybe got out of his shooting slump. So I mean, there are positives to take from this. You would have loved to have had this game, but the team just couldn't put Kansas away, and Bill Self he's gonna snatch that right out of your hands every time.
And it's also hard when you're down the stretch. You've got seconds on the clock. You're down 4. You're down. More than 3, and you're an Indiana team who has not shot well from 3.
Yeah.
So that didn't help by any means, but again, like we said, there's positive things to take away from this game.
Yeah, I think the turning point in the game is probably when Mbaka went out with his 4th foul.
Did not
help. They
help.
just lost the offensive momentum, and that's just kind of when Kansas made their big comeback, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm with you on that.
But, hopefully they get some big wins and can step up in the rankings, like in the KenPom rankings, like Indiana State is. They're at 50th now in the country, so they're 50th. They jumped up from 54th. They got a win over Ball State in the Indy Classic, like we talked about, and they're 10-1 overall now. So really setting themselves up for a great place to win the Missouri Valley.
Absolutely.
They played conference games already, so they're already 2-0 in the Valley.
Yep, that's correct. So they're already off to a really good start to the
team
conference standings.
Here's a free throw before we get into these things.
Okay.
Indiana State is now on a 9-game winning streak, which is their second longest winning streak since when?
I'm gonna guess like 2008.
Not even close. This is their second longest winning streak. Their longest winning streak is the 1978-79 season, where they won 33 games in a row to end up in the national championship game, led by someone you might know, Larry Bird, where they did fall short and end up 33-1. So,
okay,
pretty good.
Okay, yeah.
9-game winning streak, second longest since that. That's impressive.
Yeah, no, and it was led by at least their win was led by they had 4 players in double digits. Their lowest of the double digits was Julian Larry with 11. Ryan Conwell popped off 27. Kind of expected that because he's from Indy. Is that right?
Yes.
So playing in front of a home crowd for him specifically.
And the funny thing about this is, this was like they were 9 of 24 from 3, and that's for Indiana State. Like, that's a down shooting night.
Yeah, I mean it was. I wrote it. The 3rd time this season where they have not hit double digit threes.
Yeah, like that's a surprising number for them, but they're just so good that they were able to win, not let Ball State complete the comeback. Led by, like you said, Conwell and Swope and Avila. Larry just played super well. They're just so deep, and they just got a player back who was not granted the transfer waiver, but then the NCAA basically walked that back and said, and basically everyone's eligible,
Yeah.
eligible to play.
Yeah.
Because they knew that they were going to get themselves screwed in court again. But, this team just looks so good.
Yeah. It's actually really cool little fun fact is Indiana State was actually going into this game 0-2 against Ball State on neutral site games.
Huh.
So still 1-2, still a losing record, but they've turned the tide is turning in their favor this season for sure.
Good for them. I mean, I think that they're a team that when it gets to the NCAA tournament, you're going to look and they'll be a little bit like Florida Atlantic, where they're going to be completely underseeded.
Yep.
Because they're in the Missouri Valley, and people are going to, if they get in as the auto bid, they're going to be underseeded, and they're going to come in and win their first game, and people are going to like, where did Indiana State come from? It's like, dude, they're top 50 in KenPom.
Yeah.
They're a really good team.
Well, and it's the thing about the NCAA tournament too is it's you win with good guard play.
Yep.
And Indiana State has great guard play. So
and their offense, like you'll be hard pressed to find someone who's gonna, a team that's gonna be able to consistently hold this team below 70.
Yep.
Good luck.
Hold them below 10 made threes.
Yeah. Like if this team were to pull someone like Iowa, like they're gonna hang 100 on them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it'll be over. So watch out for them when it comes tournament time.
Now we have a team who played 2 games this week.
Yes, our only one.
IUPUI. They had 2 losses. They they didn't really play against Minnesota, I would say. They lost in rather dominant fashion. They lost by like 40.
They played Minnesota, who we talk about. Indiana State is like such a terrible assist number. Their assist ratio
IUPUI, you mean?
Or IUPUI, yeah, is terrible.
Indiana State has a great assist ratio.
Still on the last team of mine.
Yeah.
IUPUI has a terrible like assist ratio, but Minnesota leads the Big Ten in assist rate.
It just a mismatch from the beginning.
Yeah, Bryce Monroe dropped 20 on 10 of 17 from 2. Good for him.
Yep.
They needed someone to step up. Samuels dropped 13 and had 10 boards. It was his first career double-double, but they got out rebounded 26-40, and Minnesota shot 60% from the field. They don't have the defense to stop a team like Minnesota, fortunately. But you got Bryce Monroe coming in, playing well, and Fonzie Samuel, I think, coming off the bench at 13 and 10.
I believe so. Yep.
He had over a third of their boards. So you got good pieces and players that you can take out of this and say, okay, we got something. They need to piece it together.
Well, and for about the first time this season, Jalen Counter just was not a factor at all. He had 7 points on 3 for 10 shooting.
Yep.
He was not a scoring factor. He did lead the team with 5 assists, but he had a bounce back game against Lindenwood.
Yep.
They still lost by 6 to Lindenwood. Counter had 23 points. He was 13-14 from the free throw line. So that's a bounce back. It's a positive spin on that.
If I'm looking at this team, they need to not have just one person play well at a time.
Yeah.
You got to be able to get, if Counter can dish out that many assists, he's capable.
Oh yeah,
he did it during in the Minnesota game.
Yep.
If he can get people involved, they're going to be much better for it. This game against Lindenwood, they shot 2 for 14 from 3. They went 21-25 from the line, so they're hitting their free throws, but the 3-point shooting just was not there. And I mean, that's pretty much ball game if you're going to shoot 14%.
Yeah. They did have another positive, from that is they forced 17 turnovers on Lindenwood, and they led the points off turnovers category with 18 compared to Lindenwood's 11. So they're getting those the pieces that you need to really push your team forward up a step are there. They just need to put them all together at the same time, I think is really what this team is missing.
One thing that stood out to me in the game is not even some gameplay. I don't know who this dude is. You might somehow, some way, shape, or form affiliated with Barstool. I don't know the guy's name, but there was late in the game, Counter was about to shoot some free throws, and you just see him look over to like the scorers table, and there was a dude in like a white and red jersey and pants shorts, like, but it was the Cavaliers, and he was trying to check into the game.
I missed it.
And like apparently he does stuff like this all the time. Like, I don't know, he came across my Twitter feed and he was like, how I snuck onto an NFL field during a game. And then like obviously after this it was like how I checked into a college basketball game. And so not my type of content. Like, one, you didn't check into a college basketball game. You went to the scorers table and attempted to, but okay. He's from Indy, apparently. Apparently he went to IUPUI.
Oh, yeah, I know who that is. He's not a guy that I'm not going to say his name. He is not a guy that I enjoy consuming his content.
I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. It's like, feels like the cousin of like being a prank YouTuber.
Yeah, no, I'm with you for sure.
It was just annoying to me. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
I don't know. For 12-year-olds who might think it's funny. Not my thing.
No, don't do it.
So really annoying. Was not pleased by that. So just moving on. I don't.
You know what I was pleased by? Free basketball.
Got some. Not as much as a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, not as much as a couple weeks ago, but we got a overtime loss, unfortunately, from Notre Dame. But
at home,
free basketball.
Too.
Yeah, it's
They played Georgetown, who is in I would say, a very similar situation, like Shrewsbury is in. Got Shrewsbury doing a rebuild.
Complete rebuild, pretty
Notre
much.
Dame was in a better place when he inherited it, but he basically lost everyone.
Yeah.
And Ed Cooley's now at Georgetown, and he was picking up a disastrous team from Patrick Ewing.
Yep.
So it was like Georgetown has a better record, but it was like very comparable. I don't know, teams.
The intangibles are.
They felt very similar, so it was like kind of felt like it could be a toss up. But unfortunately, they just couldn't get it done. They lost in overtime by 4, 72-68, and that caused them to take a bit of a dive in KenPom from they're 182, they were 169 before this.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, Roper had a SportsCenter top 10 play.
Mm-hmm.
He pretty much drove the length of the court, and then did a kind of a circus acrobatic backwards layup. Yeah. So positive takeaway there.
There you go.
Hit the news feed of a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But
Burton finished with 17. There's a dude on Georgetown he's an all-time name. His name is Supreme Cook. That is an all-time name.
I'm here for it.
You don't get. He's on the first team All-American for names.
Yep.
8 of 32 from 3, 25% is not great, and Georgetown was able to make 10 more free throws from Notre Dame. So
yeah, I mean, Notre Dame, they held Georgetown without a field goal for like 8 minutes in the first half, right? That took them to a 12-2, run, which put them up 9. Unfortunately, Georgetown just flipped the script, went on a 7-0 run, and a 90-second 7-0 run put Georgetown down one possession. And that's really I think that is really what might have flipped the script on the game, is just that that absolute gut check of, okay, we're playing strong for 8 minutes, almost an entire quarter.
Yeah.
And then they just say, no, that ain't happening.
Yeah. Burton had all of their points in overtime. He had all 6. Wasn't enough.
No.
They were down 9 and then got the lead with 8 seconds left. Georgetown hits. That was like 1 second left. Sent it to overtime.
Yep.
They clearly had they had the momentum, and then they just lost it. couldn't get anyone involved in overtime.
That happens.
Talk about a team that we visited this week, Purdue Fort Wayne.
Purdue Fort Wayne, they won. Feels like not a lot of teams won this week. Doesn't help that we had 2 teams play against each other.
Yeah,
but no, they won against Bethune-Cookman.
Mm-hmm.
86-63.
Yeah, a convincing win. Just absolutely crushed them in the second half. Eric Mulder was 6 for 6 in this game. He had 12. He missed his 1 free throw, unfortunately, but he hasn't missed from the field in 2 games.
Well,
he's 11 for 11.
It's funny because 2 episodes ago, we talked about how he's just a guy that does all the dirty work.
Yeah.
And doesn't necessarily score. And he's scored in double digits in both games since we said that. Sorry, since you said that.
And I was just pointing out, well, they got such good guards, they got such good perimeter players.
Yeah.
And they don't need him to contribute 12, 15 points. But he was, double digits. He had 12 points. Great job for him. And all starters were in double figures. Jalen Jackson led with 17.
Yeah, I mean, their defense, though. I want to talk about their defense for a little bit. They limited Bethune-Cookman to 6 field goals in the second half of 23.
Yeah.
So that's impressive.
The second half was huge.
Hell.
They just came out, ready to play. It was a little bit closer than they probably wanted it to be at half.
And they just
they took it personally.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy, though, is we talked about this. PFW, they, for a while, were averaging about, 19 steals, 19 forced turnovers a game. They only had 13 in this game. They turned that into 23 points.
Yeah.
So that's scoring on almost every steal. Yeah, so they also only gave up 4 steals. So, they maintained ball control and did what they do best on defense. So Anthony Roberts, who we took a picture with.
Yeah.
Another cool thing we did while at PFW is took that. He did it all. It felt like he had 15 points, which was tied for second. He was 4 for 6 from the line. He had 7 boards, also tied for second. 5 assists, which led the team. 5 steals, which led the team. He did it all. Aside from being the leading scorer, pretty much.
Trying to be a quadruple double,
Honestly, imagine.
I just want to see one in college,
Yeah.
Just want to see one. But good for the Dons getting it done. We definitely gave them that boost when we visited. We were like, hey guys, go out, beat Bethune-Cookman 85-60. We're close.
Yeah. We
definitely had played a part in that one.
Absolutely.
A team that had a huge win. Their first time beating a number 1 team since 2000 when they beat Arizona, the number 1 team again. Purdue. They beat the number 1 team in the country, 92-84, and I think you're talking about a team that is probably they're the betting favorite, and they are probably the favorite to win the national championship.
And I think it's warranted. I know we talked about what are they going to be this year? We knew they were going to be good.
Yeah.
But it was how good, right? They've now beat based on at the conclusion of their game, teams ranked 4, 6, 7, 9, 19, 41, and 52 in the KenPom rankings.
Yeah. They have the most number of quad 1 wins by over anyone by a lot.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm an AP voter, there's no doubt in my mind I'm putting Purdue at number 1 on Monday. But these are the AP voters we're talking about. So if you don't see Purdue at number 1 on Monday, here's the reason why. Kansas got a big road win. Kansas is currently number 2. AP voters typically don't jump teams from, over a team above them in the top 5 unless that team has lost.
Yep.
So Kansas got a huge road win against Indiana. Indiana's not nearly as good of a team as Purdue is. or as Arizona is, but it's still a road win against, what would probably be a quad one win for
Kansas.
So they didn't lose. They got a big road win. Purdue's game was, I don't know for a resume standpoint if it's classified as an away or a semi-home. It was
that I don't know.
It felt like a home game, so I feel like it should be a semi-home game.
Yep.
But they still won over the number one team. So I think it'll be close if they're number one or not. But I can absolutely see the AP voters keeping Kansas number one. Purdue, just go run through the Big Ten, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
They just look so good.
Yeah, I mean, so we talked about it last week. They're on a 33 straight regular season non-conference winning streak.
Yep.
Right? Over those 33 games, they have wins over Notre Dame, whatever. North Carolina, good. Villanova, good. Florida State, twice, good. North Carolina State, Butler, Marquette twice. West Virginia, Gonzaga twice. Duke, Davidson, Xavier, Tennessee, Alabama, Arizona. This is also Purdue's first top five win. Entering the season, they had not had a top 5 versus top 5 win.
Right.
They now have two.
Yeah.
So that's
the other one being Marquette.
Yep. They look good. They're scary.
And so I thought that going into the game, I thought that if you tell me Purdue wins by 10, I could totally see it. If you tell me Arizona wins by 10, I could totally see that too. I think if you're talking about Final Four teams, you're talking about Kansas, you're talking about Purdue, talking about Houston, probably talking about Marquette, and you're talking about UConn. Mm-hmm. Those are like the 5 teams that are probably the most likely.
Yep.
UConn's only loss is to Kansas at Kansas, and they were down a player. Purdue, one loss is in overtime at Northwestern, and like that's a true road game. You were close.
Yep.
You were so close to pulling it off.
Yeah.
Northwestern has, I don't know what deal with the devil they did. They
not Northwestern has a deal with the devil. Bowie has a deal with the devil.
He bought it off Ron Harper Jr. or something.
It's like
he transferred it over.
It's like the ball in Space Jam.
Yeah.
They just like swapped powers.
Yeah. So the thing about this win is it was almost, I don't know that you can call it like a bad game, but this was a down game for Edey.
Yeah.
He was not near, like in a game like this, normally you would see the team rely on Edey. No. Warriors just going to go for 27.
Tying a career high.
Yep. Braden Smith's going to have 26. Edey's going to have 22 and 9 and 5 assists. Like he clearly knew that he didn't have to do it all.
Yep.
And if you're talking about why Purdue's going to lose a game, it's playing through Edey and only being able to play through Edey.
Yeah.
That's how they lost almost all of their games. And this one, they didn't need it at all. Like, I would say it's more likely that they lose a game if the guards are having a bad game than if Edey's having a bad game.
Oh, I agree.
Because even if he's having a bad game, they're still going to pack it in against him. Mm-hmm. They're still going to send so many people down there. They just look so good. I mean, they look like the number one team.
Oh,
Houston's
without a doubt.
Number one in KenPom. Houston hasn't really played anybody. They haven't really played anybody, so it's like not surprising. Houston also like barely beat A&M this week. So
yeah, I mean,
my number
4-point win.
My number one team is Purdue, and it's not.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone should be mad at that.
No, I'm with you for sure. Unfortunately, we don't have votes.
Yeah.
Yet.
Guys, we watch the games. That's enough of a qualifier.
Because some AP voters, in our opinion, don't watch the games. But
that's just a fact. They don't watch. There will be so many teams there's so many voters that don't even do anything with Purdue this week. But Purdue, I mean, Painter's built the juggernaut.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what the post position looks like after Edey.
Well, because you got to imagine he's gone after this season.
100%.
It's
100% he's gone.
The fact that he considered it last season, is it's a no-brainer. The problem is they've usually gotten big minutes from their backup 7-footer. They haven't gotten a lot of that at this point in this season.
And I just Ren can, and
he could play the
starting
post,
five,
but it's just a completely different style of starting five. Well. Yeah,
and I don't know what's the dude's name. Berg, is that the dude's name? They're 7-footer, and then they've got like another 7-footer coming in. I mean, they'll be fine without him, especially if the guards are playing like this.
Yeah.
Smith and Lawyer are going to be 4-year guys, and they're going to be All-Americans 2, if not 3 times.
Yeah.
I think that you have Lawyer and Smith and Edie. You might have 3 All-Americans on this team. I don't think that's not first team.
Right.
Edie will be player of the year again, and you've got probably Smith, second team.
Yeah.
Lawyer, third team, maybe honorable mention.
Yeah, definitely.
This might be the best Matt Painter team we've ever seen. I don't think that's crazy.
No.
But Purdue, don't fall into a trap against these 2 bye games you've got in the year before you go into the Big Ten play. You're projected to win big, so just do it.
Yep.
Our next team moved up in KenPom, Southern Indiana. They moved up from 336 to 333.
Didn't even play.
They didn't even have to play. They just went up. People around them lost or didn't play as well as they were supposed to. So good job, Southern Indiana. No notes. Just keep moving up.
Valpo, last of our 11 this week. Yeah, I was going to say last of our 10, but we did actually talk about Southern Indiana. So last of our 11. This was a big game. Right, they played Chicago State, who just beat Northwestern.
This had there were some real stakes here.
Who would have thought that Chicago State versus Valpo had any stakes to it? This one did. Tell me why, Adam.
Valpo was 1 point away from being the number 1 team in the state of Indiana. If Valpo beats Chicago State beat Northwestern. Northwestern beat Purdue. Purdue just beat the number 1 team in the country. Who should be the new number 1 team if they beat them? Team that beat the team that beat the team that beat
the number 1 team in the country.
So I guess, rank Chicago State AP voters.
I mean, honestly,
if you watched them, I mean, they have not lost since they beat the team that beat the number 1 team. Makes sense to me. But they did take a loss, unfortunately, 63-62 to Chicago State. And they had, Chicago State was fueled by Wesley Cardette, who had 28 points and was 3 from 3. And that's just tough.
Yeah.
It's tough, but
also doesn't help when Chicago State started the game on a 10-0 run.
Yeah.
They just took the momentum from beating Northwestern and just started off hot against Valpo. And
another way to not win a game like this is when all of your starters don't play well.
Yeah.
Pretty much the whole starting 5 did not play well or didn't play a lot. Jahari Williamson dropped 20 off the bench, which is much needed.
Yeah, I mean, he was 4 for 6 from 3, 6 for 10 from the field. So it's
the thing that really kills about this team is Chicago State started on a 10-0 run. They ended the game on a 10-0 run. Valpo was up by 9 at the under 4, and Chicago State goes on a 10-0 run and wins basically at the buzzer.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking, man.
Yeah,
that's so heartbreaking.
It's tough. It's tough when that happens. Definitely tough when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Here's a tough one for you. Chicago State has played in the Arc. They played at Valpo in the Arc 17 times. How many times have they won?
1.
Just this one.
Wow, that was a lucky guess.
So Chicago State's gotten better, but Chicago State snapped a 38-game losing streak to top 25 teams by knocking off Northwestern. So you're seeing an improved Chicago State team.
Good for them.
A Chicago State team who now 1-16.
Yep.
In the Arc.
That is how math works.
But those are our 11 teams. 1 game for everybody. 2 games for IUPUI. 0 for Southern Indiana. if you want to move up in KenPom, just take
Don't
a
play.
week off.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's what we learned this week.
Purdue, just take a week off. You'll be 1 in KenPom. It'll be fine. That's all you need to do. Ready?
I'm ready. I want to know who you picked for Jimmy Chitwood this week.
This is an incredibly tough one. I almost went. I almost had to pull like a multi select here. It was gonna be like I was getting ready to Photoshop the Hydra from Hercules with its like 3 heads.
Yeah.
Just put all 3 of them up there because I was like, I mean, Trey Galloway played really well.
Career night.
Lost. Yeah, career night. Played really well against the number 2 team in the country. Braden Smith, amazing night. Fletcher Lawyer, amazing night. Zach Edey could even still be in the conversation. He didn't even play that well. But our Jimmy Chitwood player of the week this week has to be Fletcher Lawyer. You had 27 points against the number 1 team in the country. You were 5 of 9 from 3. You had 3 assists, 4 steals, and you only had a singular turnover in 36 minutes. You didn't play out of your mind, Fletcher. You played to your potential.
Oh, yeah.
Just insane. And games like this, performances like this are going to be what brings Purdue to a Final Four. If you have Fletcher Lawyer playing like this and you can get Braden Smith to play the way he's been playing basically all season, they're, going to make it to the Final Four.
Yep.
Between those 3 people. So Jimmy Chitwood, Fletcher Lawyer, the tough call just because your team's so dang good. But, keep it rolling, man. Indiana, I know you're from Michigan, but you did go to Homestead, so we like the Fort Wayne connection. So keep it up, Fletcher.
All right.
Now let's turn our attention to next week, Jaron.
Yes.
In the state of Indiana, you got a lot of games, but not. I'll be honest. It's still like the finals and it's like the students are on break. No one really wants to play anything big.
Yeah. There's not really that many games that I'm looking out for. Big one for me is Ball State versus Minnesota. Only because we'll see Minnesota play. I believe they play both. They'll play both Purdue and Indiana this year.
They always play, yep. At least once.
They just played IUPUI. Mm-hmm. Well, this week they're playing Ball State. Again, talked about it earlier with Ball State and Evansville playing Bellarmine. Just seeing how these teams compare against the same team that they play.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. Ball State is 12-point dogs. They are playing at the barn. Minnesota, like you said, is highest assist ratio in the Big Ten so far. Ball State plays good defense, typically.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see how their team on the road plays against Minnesota's.
I think this is a game for me that I don't think Ball State needs to go in and win this game to feel good. I think the Ball State needs to go in and compete in this game.
Yeah.
You're 12-point dogs, like you said. Keep it closer than that. Don't be the Ball State team from a month ago that's getting blown out by Little Rock.
Absolutely.
Go and compete at Minnesota, and you've got some promise heading into MAC play after the turn of the new year. One for me is actually Butler is like the shining thing in this because they're playing conference games.
Yeah.
Butler gets to play Providence at Providence. You've got Kim English at Providence, who, I think is going to do a really good job. But Butler, you got to go in and get this game. This is one of your more winnable games. You're 4-point dogs, but it's one of your more winnable games in the Big East. You've got to steal one away from home. It's a lot easier to do it in the Dunk than it is to do it even in Madison Square Garden. If you're playing there against St. John's, it's a lot easier to do that at the Dunk than it is at UConn.
Yep.
So Butler, I think that they can pull that one off. I think they need to if they want to stay competitive in the Big East, be in that next tier. Let's see, Jaron. What other games?
Just because we've talked about a lot, PFW playing Pitt. PFW they're a really good team defensively. They are 12-point dogs. So going into Pitt, I think is going to be really interesting to see how PFW plays against a much, tougher opponent than probably what they've played so far.
Yeah, everyone except for maybe their game in San Francisco against San Francisco.
I think if they play 10 times against San Francisco, they might go 5-5.
Yeah.
Like I do
they
think
were in it for the 30, 35 minutes.
Yeah, I think they were just, unfortunately against San Francisco, they had a vacation.
Yeah.
A little bit. Deservedly after playing in Northern Arizona for 3 or 4 straight days, and then not coming home, not getting a real true rest.
Right.
But I think they can compete against Pitt, absolutely, and I'm interested to see what and really how Coach Coffman gets them ready for that game.
I think they're going to get up for it, and the only other one that I'm really looking at is Valpo playing at home against Samford, because we've seen Samford play Purdue. That was the game that Purdue opened the season with, where they had Dallas Graziani going out there and doing
5'7" jump ball against 7'4" Zach Edey.
So don't imagine he will be doing the jump ball again, but they're underdogs to Samford because Samford is a really good team. They got blown out by Purdue, but
really about anyone who doesn't have a number next to their name is going to get blown out by Purdue.
Yeah, and they play a tough non-conference. So Samford try and win that game. Valpo, you got hosed at home. You got hosed in your last game. You try and win this one. Get this game on Tuesday. So not a ton this week, but let's check in with the other 49 states, Jaron.
Yeah.
Big week. Big Saturday.
A lot of games played Saturday.
A couple other games. Surprising results everywhere. This whole season. You've seen teams get blown out just like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like Michigan State. Now that you look at their first loss to James Madison, that's not that weird. James Madison's really good.
Yeah.
Still 10-0. Undefeated. But UNLV gets smoked by Creighton. UNLV smoked Creighton by 15 on Wednesday. I think that's like their second gigantic loss this year. They're just really up and down. Chicago State, as we talked about, did beat Northwestern 75-73 on Wednesday. Valpo lose to them by 1, less than 2.
So
maybe we do need to update our power rankings.
Let's see what Valpo does this week, and then we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. What else happened, Jaron?
UConn beat Gonzaga. Not really a huge surprise there. I do think, like we said, UConn is a Final Four team.
Yep.
They, there's likelihood that they'll be playing for another natty. And Gonzaga, still a good team. I think they're not the team that they have been in recent years.
Correct.
So not really surprised at a 13-point loss to UConn, but still
they were playing somewhere else maybe in Seattle.
Yeah.
And they were like, UConn was like 6-point favorites. As soon as the game was like tipping off, I was like, they're gonna run away with this. It wasn't really as close as the score said it was, but UConn's just next level, man.
Yeah.
Purdue, UConn, like those 5 teams that could be in the running for Final Four are just next level.
Yeah, another one. We talked about Michigan State taking a big loss early in the season to James Madison. They bounced back. They had a big win against Baylor.
Yeah, 88-64.
Yeah, quite handedly.
At halftime, Tyson Walker was outscoring Baylor by himself. And Baylor's top 10?
They're 15 according to KenPom. Yeah. They were undefeated. This was their first loss.
Yep.
They have huge wins over Seton Hall, which is top 100. They beat Auburn. They had beat Florida. All 3 really good teams. And Baylor's playing. They genuinely play good ball. I mean, Scott Shear is a great coach.
Yep.
But Tom Izzo, is this a turning point for Michigan State? Like,
he was sandbagging or something,
right?
He had to really break his guys down or something. It was like, you're gonna lose to everyone, and then we're gonna rise from the ashes like a phoenix,
and we're just not gonna lose the rest of the season.
I mean, they beat Michigan State beat Baylor, and Baylor beat Auburn. So Michigan State, I think we can award them like a 60-point transitive win over Indiana. Think about it. They beat Baylor's breaks in, who beat in.
I mean, that's like when you lose to Nebraska, for example,
and gave it away to Nebraska,
and then you bounce back with just an absolute dominant win. Like I think they're going to go on a run, and Baylor's just the start of it.
Yeah, I mean, no better time than the start of the Big Ten.
True. So, they do have, Michigan State does have, I think, three more bye games, but
I mean, if you're a Michigan State fan, don't turn the TV off on those ones.
No,
you don't know.
No,
this could be like
They do play Indiana State in 2 weeks.
That'll be a really good one.
I'm excited for that. Really good game. I'm excited for that.
Before this game that they played against Baylor, it basically seemed that Indiana State was going to get just a huge resume boosting win. I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah.
Tune into that. The CBS Sports Classic happened. That was like part of the triple header with IU kicked it off, and then the CBS Sports Classic happened. Kentucky beat North Carolina by 4. Ohio State surprisingly beat UCLA by 7. UCLA is a little bit down this year. They lost a lot of pieces. But,
and Ohio State's a team you really never know. They're an absolute wild card in my opinion.
I don't know where they're going to end up in the Big Ten.
It's hard to get a read on them, but a big win.
Louisville. So today Louisville played, but I want to talk about before that. They had Arkansas State at home in a bye game in the Yum Center, and they got destroyed. They lost 75-63. And basically it seemed that after that game that Kenny Payne was done.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to make it till Christmas.
I don't think he's making it to New Year's and Christmas. I don't know. I think he might coach against Kentucky just because they might not be able to find someone. They did get a big win against Pepperdine today. They won by 22, but they apparently, reports are out that they asked Danny Manning, who used to be the coach at Wake Forest, and he's the associate head coach on the team. They apparently asked him if he was interested in being the interim, and he was like, no.
Wait, you mean so like they haven't even said that they're firing? They haven't confirmed that they're firing Payne, but they've already asked someone to be interim.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I don't know what's going on in the department, but basically it seems that Kenny Payne's going to be gone. They just need to find somebody to coach this team, which is unfortunate. So bad. That's so bad. It's like historically bad. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, they got that 20-point win. Maybe that cools the fire under his seat. But I mean, you're talking about like he's in an oven that was 500 degrees and now it's sitting at 475.
You know, it would be a wild turn of events is if they fired Payne at any point between now and the end of the season and hired Richard Pitino.
Oh my God!
Do we think there's a path for that? Do you think that happens? I don't see Richard leaving New Mexico.
No,
but
I wouldn't either. No, he didn't. He was over his head, in my opinion. Too much pressure at Minnesota.
Yeah.
And he did pretty well for a couple of seasons.
Yeah, he was there for 7-8 years, something like that. But that'd be funny to me because
what would be so funny? The funniest outcome possible is that because they can't find anyone to coach the team, he has to coach against Kentucky and he wins.
You can't fire him at that point, right?
I don't think so. I mean, they play
huge rivalry.
They play
win
at home against Kentucky. It's possible. We've seen Kentucky.
That's gonna be a home game for Kentucky.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're getting all there are not many people buying Louisville tickets, but it's possible that they pull it off.
Yeah.
I don't think it's likely, but it's the scenario I'm rooting for because it's by far the funniest scenario possible.
I'm with it. I'm here for it.
Because then let's go. Everyone's like,
let's go Cards.
Thanks. We still need to fire you though. Like, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
But USC lost to Auburn. They're now 5-5. They had the best recruit coming in, and they have Bronny James, and they're just kind of dookie.
Yeah,
they were picked to finish like second in the Pac-12, and they started as a top 5 team. They were in the AP poll until week 4 when they finally dropped out.
Remember, Bronny's only been back for 2 or 3 games.
Bronny's not the guy. Isaiah Collier was supposed to be the guy.
I mean, yeah, but if your name starts with LeBron and ends with James, you're gonna do all right. You're just gonna put a team on your back.
Their team's not good.
They're not. They're not. But
I don't know. So should have tried to get one more Pac-12 title before, the thing exists. We can't have this kind of team coming into the Big Ten. Come on, step it up. It'll be better.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah, help us out.
But some games that you might want to be aware of next week. Virginia is at Memphis on Tuesday. Marquette is at Providence to open Big East play for them. That could be a game. Kim English is at Providence. Coaching, I think he's doing a really good job, but Marquette's just weird. They've taken some big losses, like to Wisconsin. They took that loss to Wisconsin. Another team that's weird is Villanova. They play at Creighton. Villanova went 0-3 in the Big Five. They lost to every team in Philadelphia. They were like, send us all the teams from Philadelphia and we're going to lose to them all.
Yep.
So they might get blown out at Creighton. But
Creighton needs a bounce back game. Yeah. So
it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be a game.
Baylor and Duke in Madison Square Garden could be fun.
Baylor, they need a bounce back game as well. And Duke is Duke.
North Carolina is going to go challenge Oklahoma's undefeated resume. See, you're talking about maybe Oklahoma goes into the SEC with one loss. Maybe they pull it off against Oklahoma.
Big week for Arizona.
UNC.
Big week for Arizona.
Yeah.
Talk about an 8-day span, right? They played Purdue on Saturday.
Yep.
They played Bama on Wednesday. They didn't play Florida Atlantic on Saturday. None of those. Arizona could go 0-3 in an 8-day span. Yeah. They also could go 2-1.
I think that they will go 2-1 just because I think that they're just so good and they're gonna. Ballo didn't play very well. Caleb Love played insane. You're gonna have people who are like, not good enough for me. I'm gonna come out.
And Bama, you never know which Bama team's gonna show up on any given day.
Yep.
Ironic that both Bama and Arizona lost to Purdue. So
is it gonna be the Bama team that lost to Clemson, or is it gonna be the Bama team that beat Oregon, or the one that lost to Ohio State? Who knows?
Right. No, they don't even know until
it all depends on if the shots
the
are
final buzzer. Yeah. Illinois plays at Missouri, so that'll be a fun little rivalry game.
Illinois should win that game, but it's a rivalry game.
Missouri's playing. They played pretty decently the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
So
it'll be tough. I mean, rivalry games you can never guess. You toss a coin and see how it's going to go. But
we've also got a guy like Terrence Shannon who's now kind of squeaking his way into National Player of the Year conversation.
Yep.
So
definitely in that All-American conversation.
If he plays up to his potential, I definitely think that Illinois pulls that off on the road.
Yeah. Well, that's really all I want to look for. What I'm looking forward to next week. There's more bye games coming. Conference play in the Big East starts, but then after the calendar flips to January, conference plays going strong, and we're gonna get some good games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to Coach Coffman at Purdue Fort Wayne. Thank you so much for having us. We are very lucky to be able to connect with you, and we look forward to talking to you in the future and hopefully coming out again.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, clock is showing quadruple zeros. It's time for us to get out of here. Thanks for checking in on the State of Basketball podcast. See you next week. And remember, in 49 states,
just basketball.